Join the invasion fleet and see the galaxy. Emperor Zang needs you. Chapter 1. The Gray Awakens. I was just another gray back then, smooth-skinned, wide-eyed, and barely tall enough to reach the recruitment desk. My life on the colony was dull, endless crop rotations of nutrient moss, staring at the same 3 moons, and listening to elders drone on about the old abductions. I wanted more. I wanted adventure. I wanted to see the galaxy. That's when I saw the poster. Join the invasion fleet and see the galaxy. Emperor Zang needs you. The gray in the illustration looked just like me, only taller, shinier, and holding a plasma rifle with casual menace. I signed up immediately. The first day in training was a shock. They shaved our heads, though we didn't have hair to begin with, and issued us identical silver jumpsuits. We learned to march in perfect formation, our spindly limbs clicking against the deck. We learned to stare with our enormous black eyes until enemies crumbled under the weight of our gaze. At first I was clumsy. My ray gun slipped from my 3-fingered grip. My telepathic commands came out garbled, accidentally ordering a squadmate to dance instead of attack. I was laughed at, shoved, and nearly reassigned to mess hall duty. But the fleet doesn't give up on its recruits. It molds them. It sharpens them. It turns wide-eyed dreamers into hardened invaders. My first mission was terrifying, a raid on a backwater planet with primitive defenses. I remember stepping off the transport, my silver boots sinking into alien soil, my heart pounding in my oversized chest cavity. The locals screamed. I screamed too, though mine was the battle cry of the fleet. I fired my first shot. A barn disintegrated. My squad cheered. Something inside me shifted. I wasn't just a recruit anymore. I was part of the machine, part of the glorious tide of conquest. Weeks passed. My eyes grew colder, my grip steadier. I stopped trembling when the cannons roared. I stopped hesitating when the orders came. I became what the posters promised, a gray invader, sleek, efficient, and merciless. Now, when I see new recruits, skin still soft, eyes still full of wonder, I almost laugh. They don't know yet. They don't know how the fleet will strip away their innocence and replace it with discipline, firepower, and the thrill of conquest. But I do, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, because Emperor Zang needs me, and I need the fleet. Chapter 2. Worlds Beyond the Training Deck. When I first signed up, they promised me the galaxy. I thought it was just a slogan, something painted on the recruitment spire to lure wide-eyed grays like me. But then came my first jump. The transport shuddered, the stars stretched into ribbons, and suddenly I was staring at a sky I had never imagined. 2 suns blazing over a world of molten rivers, a moon carved into palaces of ice, a planet where the clouds themselves glowed with bioluminescent storms. The fleet calls it deployment. I call it vacation with weapons. Every mission is a postcard waiting to be scorched. We land, we march, we conquer, and in between, we sightsee. I've stood on the methane geysers of Blipnar, watching them erupt like fountains of victory. I floated above the crystalline seas of Vorga 9, my reflection shimmering back at me in alien hues. I've even walked the quaint streets of Earth, where the locals gawked at my silver jumpsuit before running for cover. The best part? It's all free. No tickets, no reservations, no waiting in line. The fleet takes you places you never dreamed of, and all you have to do is point your ray gun at whoever lives there. I used to think travel was about relaxation. Now I know it's about domination. And honestly, domination is far more exciting. So when the posters say, "See the galaxy," believe them. You'll see it all. You'll see it burn. You'll see it bow, and you'll see it from the best seat in the house. The cockpit of an invasion craft. Chapter 3. Food. Glorious food. They told me fleet rations were legendary. I thought they were exaggerating. After all, how exciting could nutrient paste be? But the moment I stepped into the mess hall, I realized the fleet doesn't just feed you, it indoctrinates your taste buds. The first tray they handed me was a shimmering cube labeled Protein, Flavor Number 23. It tasted like victory, or maybe like recycled algae. Hard to tell. But the propaganda posters insisted every bite fuels conquest, and I believed them. Meals became an adventure. Breakfast was a slurry of vitamins that glowed faintly in the dark. Lunch was a choice between hydrated sludge and hydrated sludge with garnish. Dinner was whatever we captured that day. Once we raided a Terran colony and the cooks served something called pizza. It was triangular, greasy, and screamed faintly when bitten. Delicious. The fleet insists variety is key. One week we sampled the crystalline nectar of Vorga 9, crunchy like eating glass. Another week we tried Blipnar's methane-infused stew, smelled like rotten eggs, tasted like triumph. And of course, dessert was mandatory. Emperor Zang decreed that a sweet tooth is a loyal tooth. At first, I gagged. My gray physiology wasn't built for sludge or screaming pizza, but after a few cycles, I craved it. I craved the cubes, the sludge, the captured delicacies. I craved the way the mess hall echoed with laughter, the way comrades clinked trays together like warriors celebrating conquest. Food wasn't just sustenance. It was ritual. It was camaraderie. It was proof that we were part of something bigger, something hungrier. Now, when I bite into a glowing cube, I don't taste algae. I taste destiny. Chapter 4. Brothers, Sisters, and Squadmates in Conquest. When I first boarded the transport, I thought I was alone. Just another gray, spindly, and nervous, clutching my issued ray gun like it was a comfort blanket. But the fleet doesn't let you stay alone for long. It throws you into the mess hall, the barracks, the battlefield, and suddenly you're surrounded by comrades who look just as terrified, just as eager, just as ridiculous in their shiny jumpsuits. At first, we were strangers, a crystal-skinned recruit who hummed when nervous, a gas being who had to be kept in a containment bubble, a fellow gray who claimed he'd already abducted 36 Terrans, though he couldn't prove it. We were a mismatched collection of species, quirks, and insecurities. Then came the drills, marching in formation until our limbs ached, shouting, "For Zang!" until our throats buzzed, sharing recycled air in bunks so cramped you couldn't tell whose elbow was whose. Somewhere in the sweat, the laughter, and the occasional parasite outbreak, we became a unit. Camaraderie in the fleet isn't optional, it's survival. When the cannons roar, you need someone at your side who will cover your flank. When the sludge rations arrive, you need someone to trade flavors with. When Emperor Zhang's hologram appears to yell motivational insults, you need someone to laugh with afterward. I remember my first raid. I froze, staring at the chaos, my oversized eyes wide with panic. Then the crystal-skinned recruit nudged me, grinning through the glow. "Come on," he said. "Let's make history." And just like that, I wasn't afraid anymore. Now, when I look around the barracks, I don't see strangers. I see brothers, sisters, squad mates. I see beings who will march beside me into fire, who will laugh with me in the mess hall, who will share in the absurd glory of conquest. The fleet promises camaraderie, and it delivers. Not because we're forced together, but because we're forged together, by drills, by battles, by the sheer ridiculousness of surviving Emperor Zhang's motivational speeches. And honestly, that's the best perk of all. Chapter 5. The Glory of Battle. They told us battle would be glorious. I thought they meant glorious in the abstract sense, like a noble sacrifice or a stirring speech. Turns out they meant literal fireworks, Plasma bolts streaking across the sky, cannons roaring like thunder, cities lighting up in spectacular bursts of disintegration. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was everything the posters promised. My first real fight was chaos. The fleet dropped us into a city of stone towers and panicked locals. I stumbled forward, ray gun shaking in my three-fingered grip, my oversized eyes reflecting the explosions. For a moment I froze. Then the battle cry erupted around me. For Zang! My squad surged forward, and I surged with them. The first shot I fired disintegrated a statue. The second shot leveled a wall. By the third, I wasn't thinking anymore. I was invading. The fear melted away, replaced by something sharper, harder. Every blast was a punctuation mark in Emperor Zang's grand sentence of conquest. Battle changes you. You stop flinching when the cannons roar. You stop hesitating when the orders come. You learn to march through fire, to laugh at danger, to cheer when the enemy flees. And you learn that glory isn't just about medals. It's about the stories you'll tell in the mess hall afterward, the scars you'll compare, the victories you'll exaggerate until they sound like legends. The fleet makes sure you feel it. Every recruit gets a chance to pilot a death glider, to fire a disintegration ray, to shout slogans until their voice echoes across the battlefield. Insurance is included, safety goggles optional. Now, when I look back, I don't remember the fear. I remember the light, the sound, the sheer absurd thrill of turning chaos into conquest. I remember the camaraderie, the laughter, the way we shouted louder than the explosions. And I remember the moment I realized battle isn't just survival. It's entertainment. It's destiny. It's the fleet's promise fulfilled. Glory isn't abstract. Glory is real. Glory is loud. Glory is mine. Chapter 6. Health Benefits. Because invaders deserve care, too. When I first signed up, I assumed the fleet didn't care if I lived or died. After all, we're expendable, right? Wrong. The fleet cares deeply, because healthy invaders conquer more planets per cycle, and so they shower us with benefits. The medical bay is a marvel of efficiency. Stub your spindly limb? They'll regrow it in a regeneration pod before you finish your sludge ration. Overshoot your ray gun and vaporize your own foot. No problem. Replacement limbs are stocked like spare parts. First 3 regenerations are free. After that, Emperor Zang recommends the Premium Invader plan. We even get routine checkups. A medic shines a light into my oversized eyes, nods gravely, and says, "Yes, you're still terrifying." That's reassurance you can't buy. And the perks don't stop there. Free massages, performed by robotic claws, programmed to squeeze until you forget pain. Parasite removal, mandatory after visiting Blipnar. Dental care, because even greys need their teeth filed into points for intimidation purposes. The fleet insists that wellness is part of conquest. A healthy invader is a happy invader, Emperor Zhang's hologram declares, usually while vaporizing a planet in the background. At first I thought it was absurd. Who needs health care when you're marching into battle? But after my 3rd regeneration, my 2nd parasite removal, and my 1st dental polish, I realized something. The fleet doesn't just keep you alive, it keeps you invading. Now, when I step onto the battlefield, I don't worry about injuries. I know the medical bay will patch me up, polish me, and send me back out with a smile, or at least a grimace. Because in the fleet, health isn't just survival, it's strategy. And strategy tastes almost as good as sludge with garnish. Chapter 7. The Retirement Plan. Because even invaders need rest. When I first signed up, I never thought about retirement. I was too busy polishing my ray gun and memorizing battle cries. But the fleet insists on reminding us, serve 20 cycles and retire in luxury. It's painted on every recruitment spire, right next to Emperor Zang's glowing grin. At first, I laughed. Who survives 20 cycles? But then I saw the brochures. Yes, brochures. Glossy hollow pamphlets showing invaders lounging on lava spas, sipping molten cocktails, their silver jumpsuits replaced with casual capes. Suddenly, retirement didn't seem so impossible. The options are dazzling. Moltar 3, Lava Spa, perfect for those who enjoy the soothing burn of molten rock. Cryon 7, Frozen Palace, for invaders who prefer their drinks and their enemies on ice. Quiet Asteroid, number 442, a secluded getaway where no one will ever find you. Perfect for deserters, though the fine print clarifies deserters are vaporized before arrival. The fleet promises that every veteran will be honored, pampered, and occasionally paraded through the streets of conquered worlds. You'll receive medals shaped like things you can't pronounce, pensions paid in loot, and the eternal gratitude of Emperor Zang, expressed through holographic applause. I've already started imagining it. Me reclining on a lava spa chair, my oversized eyes hidden behind victory shades, sipping magma through a straw. My comrades beside me, swapping stories of battles we barely survived, laughing at the absurdity of it all. Of course, the fleet doesn't mention the fine print. Retirement subject to availability. Luxury moons may be destroyed during future invasions. Benefits void if Emperor Zang changes his mind. But who cares? It's the dream that matters. And honestly, after marching through fire, eating sludge cubes, and shouting for Zang until my throat buzzes, the idea of a quiet asteroid sounds perfect. So yes, retirement is real. It's glorious. It's waiting. And it's just 20 cycles away. Chapter 8. Uniforms that impress. When I first slipped into the fleet uniform, I felt ridiculous. Silver jumpsuit, stiff boots, cape that billowed even when there was no wind. It looked like something designed by a committee of fashion-blind warlords. But the moment I stepped into formation, I realized the truth. The uniform wasn't meant to look good. It was meant to look inevitable. Every gray in the fleet wears the same gleaming silver, every cape cut to the same dramatic length. From a distance, we don't look like individuals. We look like a tidal wave of conquest. And that's the point. The uniform erases hesitation, erases doubt, erases the idea that you're just one recruit fumbling with a ray gun. Instead, you're part of something larger, shinier, and terrifyingly well-laundered. The fleet insists the uniforms are practical. Stain-resistant, they say, though mine still smells faintly of methane stew. Intimidating, they say, though mine once got caught in a door. Comfortable, they say, though I've never stopped itching. But propaganda works. When you march in silver, cape fluttering, boots clanging, you feel invincible. And the locals notice. I've seen entire villages freeze at the sight of our capes. I've seen enemies surrender before the battle even begins, just because our jumpsuits reflected the sun like 1,000 mirrors of doom. I've even seen comrades trip over their own capes, only to rise again with dignity intact, because the uniform demands dignity. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see a spindly gray with oversized eyes. I see an invader. I see a soldier of Emperor Zang. I see a cape that billows dramatically even in zero gravity. The fleet promises uniforms that impress, and they deliver. Not because they're stylish, but because they're symbols. Symbols of unity, of intimidation, of conquest. And honestly, I wouldn't trade mine for anything, except maybe a lava spa robe. But that's retirement. Chapter 9. Entertainment on the March. You'd think conquest would be enough entertainment. Plasma bolts, collapsing cities, terrified locals. It's practically a fireworks show every mission. but the fleet insists morale must be maintained between battles, and so they provide entertainment. The mess hall transforms into a stage once a week. Karaoke night is mandatory. The songs? All hymns of conquest. I've belted out "Burn, Baby, Burn for Zang," with a voice that cracked halfway through, only to be drowned out by a gas being's surprisingly soulful rendition of "We Will Invade You." Then there's zero-gravity dodgeball. Nothing bonds a squad like hurling glowing spheres at each other while spinning helplessly in midair. I once took a ball to the face, ricocheted into the ceiling, and floated there for 10 minutes. My squad laughed so hard they nearly suffocated. That's camaraderie. But the highlight of fleet entertainment is Emperor Zang's weekly motivational hologram. He appears larger than life, cape billowing, eyes blazing, and proceeds to yell at us for 30 minutes straight. You are the spear. You are the fire. You are the reason the galaxy trembles. By the end, we're half terrified, half ecstatic, and fully ready to vaporize something. There are smaller diversions, too. Loot bingo. Match the relics you've stolen to win extra sludge cubes. Comedy hour. Mostly jokes about deserters. Spoiler, they're vaporized. Talent shows. I once saw a crystal-skinned recruit juggle plasma grenades. It ended explosively. At first, I thought it was ridiculous. Why sing karaoke when you could be conquering? Why play dodgeball when you could be vaporizing? But then I realized entertainment isn't just distraction. It's propaganda disguised as fun. It keeps us laughing, keeps us shouting, keeps us believing that conquest is not only glorious, it's hilarious. Now, when I strap on my silver boots, I don't just look forward to battle. I look forward to karaoke night, because nothing says galactic invader like belting out a tune while the universe burns. Chapter 10. Education and Training, because knowledge is conquest. When I first joined, I thought the fleet would only teach me how to shoot straight and shout slogans louder. Turns out the fleet is also an educational institution. They call it the University of Universal Domination. Tuition is free, but the homework explodes. The curriculum is rigorous. Advanced Disintegration 101. Learn to vaporize structures without accidentally vaporizing your squad mates. I got a C+. Diplomacy for invaders. Defined as shout louder than the other species until they agree. Loot accounting. How to catalog plundered relics without accidentally selling them back to the enemy. Psychological warfare. Perfecting the 1,000-yard gray stare until enemies crumble under your oversized eyes. We even get electives. I took ray gun maintenance, surprisingly meditative, and cape management in zero gravity. Less meditative, more humiliating. The instructors are veterans, scarred, grizzled, and endlessly sarcastic. They tell us, "You're not just recruits. You're students of conquest. Every battle is a classroom, every explosion a lesson." And they mean it. My first failed exam involved accidentally disintegrating the exam table. The instructor gave me partial credit for enthusiasm. At first, I thought it was absurd. Why dress up indoctrination as education? But then I realized the fleet isn't just training us to fight, it's training us to believe. Every lecture, every drill, every absurd elective reinforces the same lesson. Conquest is destiny, and Emperor Zang is the headmaster of the galaxy. Now, when I march into battle, I don't just feel like a soldier. I feel like a graduate with honors in vaporization studies, a minor in loot management, and a cape that billows with academic authority. The fleet promises education, and it delivers. Not the kind that gets you a desk job, but the kind that gets you a front-row seat to history, usually while holding a plasma rifle. And honestly, that's the only diploma I'll ever need. Chapter 11. Diversity in the Fleet. When I first joined, I assumed the fleet was made up entirely of greys like me. Smooth-skinned, wide-eyed, spindly, efficient. But the moment I stepped into the barracks, I realized the truth. The fleet is a cosmic melting pot, and Emperor Zang stirs it with a very large spoon. My bunkmate was a crystal-skinned warrior who hummed whenever nervous. Across the hall was a gas being sealed in a containment bubble, floating serenely until someone sneezed and sent him ricocheting down the corridor. Next to him was a slug creature who left trails everywhere, forcing us to install slime-resistant flooring. And then there was me, a gray, trying to look dignified while slipping on slug trails. At first, it was chaos. How do you march in formation when half your squad doesn't have legs? How do you share a mess hall when one recruit eats sludge cubes and another absorbs light? How do you bond with a comrade who communicates exclusively through interpretive dance? The fleet's answer: adapt. And somehow we did. Training drills became a comedy of errors. The gas being floated out of formation, the slug creature slimed the instructor, and the crystal warrior blinded us all with a nervous hum. But by the end of the cycle, we weren't laughing at each other. We were laughing with each other. Diversity wasn't a weakness. It was entertainment. And occasionally it was strategy. On the battlefield, it worked. The slug creature slid under defenses, the crystal warrior refracted enemy fire, the gas being suffocated opponents by accident, and I just looked terrifying with my oversized eyes. Together, we were unstoppable. The fleet insists diversity is our strength. If it can hold a blaster, it belongs, Emperor Zang declares in his weekly hologram. And he's right. The fleet doesn't care what you look like, what you eat, or how many limbs you have. It cares that you march, you fight, and you shout, "For Zang," louder than the enemy. Now, when I look around the barracks, I don't see chaos. I see unity. I see comrades of every shape, size, and slime level. I see proof that the galaxy can be conquered by anyone, provided they wear the uniform and follow the slogans. The fleet promises diversity, and it delivers. Not because it's noble, but because it's practical. And honestly, watching a gas being play karaoke is worth the price of admission. Chapter 12. The Epic Battle, Expanded Edition. The fleet promised glory, and glory came in fire. We descended on the jewel of the sector, a planet bristling with defenses, its skies thick with enemy craft, its cities glowing with defiance. This wasn't a raid. This was war. The transport bay shook as cannons roared. My squad stood shoulder to shoulder, silver capes fluttering, oversized eyes gleaming with anticipation. Emperor Zhang's hologram flickered above us, shouting, "You are the spear. You are the fire. You are the reason the galaxy trembles." The doors opened, light poured in, and we charged. The first wave. The enemy's aerial fleet descended like a storm. Sleek fighters screamed overhead, unleashing volleys of plasma. We responded in kind, our death gliders streaking through the sky, silver capes trailing like banners of doom. I gripped the controls, heart pounding, and dove into the fray. My first kill was clumsy, a lucky shot that sent a fighter spiraling into its own fortress. My second was deliberate, a clean strike that lit the sky in a blossom of fire. By the third, I was laughing. The fleet had promised adventure, and adventure was screaming in my ears. The ground assault. We hit the streets like thunder. Towers crumbled, barricades shattered, and the locals scattered in panic. My squad surged forward, each species turning chaos into strategy. The crystal warrior refracted enemy fire into dazzling explosions. The gas being enveloped defenders in a shimmering haze, suffocating them without a shot fired. The slug creature slid through defenses, leaving trails that tripped entire battalions. And me? I fired until my ray gun overheated, then grabbed another from the fallen. We fought through bunkers, through alleys, through resistance that refused to break. Every step was earned in fire. Every victory was carved in rubble. The heroic stand. At the city's heart stood the fortress, a monolith of steel and defiance. Its cannons roared, its defenders shouted, its walls gleamed with stubborn pride. We charged anyway. Half our squad fell in the first volley. I felt fear claw at me, but then I saw the crystal warrior raise his arms, refracting the cannon fire into a rainbow of destruction. I saw the gas being expand, swallowing the enemy's front line in shimmering silence. I saw the slug creature slam into the gate, cracking it open with sheer persistence. And I saw myself, spindly, oversized eyes blazing, charging through the breach, ray gun raised, cape billowing. My shot pierced the gate. My squad surged through. And when the fortress fell, the planet fell with it. The aftermath. The fleet had promised glory, and glory was ours. Medals were pinned to our jumpsuits, capes polished, propaganda posters updated with our faces. Emperor Zang's hologram appeared, smiling for once, declaring, "You are the galaxy's destiny." But beneath the cheers, I felt something deeper. I wasn't just a recruit anymore. I wasn't even just an invader. I was a hero, at least in the fleet's eyes, hardened, relentless, unstoppable. And yet, as the smoke cleared and the rubble settled, I couldn't help but wonder, was this glory or just survival dressed in silver? Epilogue. The unexpected visitors. We celebrated in the mess hall, sludge cubes clinking like champagne, laughter echoing louder than the cannons. Emperor Zang's hologram appeared, smiling for once, declaring the conquest complete. Medals were handed out, capes repaired, propaganda posters updated. And then it happened. The sky tore open, not with enemy fire, not with rebellion, but with something else, something vast, shimmering, and utterly silent. A fleet unlike ours, ships shaped like living light, descending without weapons, without slogans, without sound. We froze. Even Emperor Zhang's hologram flickered uncertainly. The beings emerged, tall, radiant, eyes glowing not with menace but with something stranger. They didn't attack. They didn't surrender. They simply looked at us, at me, at my oversized gray eyes hardened by battle, dulled by conquest. And for the first time I felt small. The fleet had promised the galaxy, but the galaxy was bigger than conquest, bigger than Zang, bigger than all our capes and cannons combined. The being closest to me pointed a finger in my direction and shook its head. I felt judged, and I immediately knew I was being scolded for my juvenile wrongdoings. They vanished as suddenly as they appeared, leaving silence in their wake. The mess hall was quiet. The propaganda posters seemed flimsy. The medals felt heavy. I don't know what they were. I don't know what they wanted. But I know this. The fleet's story isn't over, and neither is mine. Because Emperor Zang still needs me. But now I wonder, what else does the galaxy need? The end? Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.